We've had 14 years of being the cheapest club in the league. Now we're the richest club in the world.
Saudi Arabia is bringing hope to thousands of football fans in Newcastle. These were the scenes at St James's Park Stadium at the first game since Newcastle United Football Club was taken over by a Saudi-led consortium. Fans were over the moon. Some welcomed their new Gulf owners with kafirs and white thobes they'd ordered online. Others settled for throwing a kitchen towel on their heads.
I think it's absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. Something we needed, the team needed, everybody needed, the fans. Look, you wouldn't get this in Manchester or Man City or Man United.
Take over football, we take over the league, the cups, Champions League, everything.
It's a religion, basically. We live and breathe it. Anywhere else, any investment whatsoever in the area is great. Not just necessarily the team, the whole area is combined.
But why would Saudi Arabia pour hundreds of millions of dollars into a football team in northeast England? Since Mohammed bin Salman became Crown Prince in 2017, Saudi Arabia has invested heavily in sports, from heavyweight boxing to wrestling and Formula One. It's part of the Vision 2030 strategy, which aims to move the country away from relying on oil. It's also an opportunity to improve its reputation abroad. Meanwhile, in Newcastle, fans felt they had long suffered under the 14-year ownership of Mike Ashley, who they accused of not investing in their team. A football heavyweight in the dumps and an oil-rich government looking for a flashy rebrand. A perfect union. Saudi Arabia is following in the footsteps of its neighbours the UAE, who bought Manchester City in 2008, and Qatar, who bought Paris Saint-Germain in 2011. Both teams are now among the best in the world, thanks to the generous injections of cash from their owners. Now, Saudi Arabia and Newcastle want a piece of the pie.
What people need to realise is that Newcastle are forgotten. If you say the government, or if you live in London, it is forgotten about, and this city does need investment. If you look at the likes of Manchester City, for example, Manchester's been completely transformed in the last, 10, 12 years since they were taken over.
But like Qatar and the UAE, Saudi Arabia have been accused of using Newcastle to sportswash human rights abuses.
Ever since this deal was first talked about over 18 months ago, Amnesty has said that it would represent a really high watermark for the Saudi authorities in their efforts to clean up their appalling human rights record by buying into top-flight English football. It seemed that the Premier League was going in one direction on this decision, and now they've gone in another. And it sets a dangerous precedent that English football is open for business when it comes to sports washing.
Newcastle United's new ownership team have claimed that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund was separate from the country's rulers.
We are, very much our partner is not the Saudi state, our partner is PIF, and we look forward to working with them.
But let's take a closer look at who runs the public investment fund. Its chair is Mohammed bin Salman, and its board is made up of Saudi government ministers and royal advisors. And if the Newcastle takeover had nothing to do with the Saudi royal family, these guys didn't get the memo. Before the first match under Saudi ownership, a van was seen driving around the stadium with a picture of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist murdered by Saudi agents in 2018. Other local activists have highlighted the war in Yemen, where a Saudi-led coalition has been accused of targeting schools and hospitals, killing thousands of civilians. That's particularly significant in South Shields, a small town 10 miles from Newcastle and home to some of the UK's first Yemeni and Arab migrants. Yemeni men first arrived in South Shields in the 1860s, working as seamen on British merchant vessels. Some of their descendants previously told us they rejected the Saudi takeover of their local club.
The soldiers who were stationed in most of the forts along Hadrian's Wall are actually tend to have come from Mesopotamia. So we have deep and enduring ties to the Middle East that a lot of people just don't actually understand or realize. Those are deep historical roots that bind the Northeast to the Arab world. And the South Shield Yemenis is just one community. And when I saw the news, my first thoughts turned to them because, that's one of the biggest communities of Yemenis in the UK. And then suddenly their football club has been taken over by Saudi Arabia. I mean, that, and I know that they've opposed it before. And if there's any glimmer of hope in kind of like, how could the Saudi plan backfire? It's whether the Yemenis in Saudi Health Shields use this as an opportunity to educate people about what's happening in Yemen.
But for most Newcastle fans, concerns about Yemen and Saudi human rights have nothing to do with them.
I think you need to be speaking to the government and saying, look, what's the issue? What are the issues? Because you've got to remember the UK government do a trade deal or an arms deal with Saudi Arabia. So if they can do that sort of deal, why can't Newcastle do a deal with a Saudi Arabian-led consortium for their club if it passes certain tests, which it did last Thursday?
I'm not, condoning what's happened as with human rights, but what we're going to do, if we're going to be political about this situation, we need to start from the top. When the Saudis come into town, the Queen literally, rolls out the red carpet.
The Saudis have investment in Twitter, Facebook, Starbucks, your Ubers, your Boeing. Are you going to stop going and using these social medias? You're going to stop having a coffee? We're not going to stop going to our football club.
Nothing will stop these Newcastle fans from celebrating their newfound Saudi wealth.